Welcome everyone to another product review. So today, as you can probably tell, I'm using AK Interactive's Streaking Grime and their Rust Streaks. So this stuff I find is pretty good. It's pretty good. Very quick drying and pretty easy to use. So it's fairly universal. You can use it straight out of the pot. You can water it down to pretty much any extent you want with a little bit of white spirit. You can tease it a little bit with a cotton wool bud once it starts drying or when it's dry. And it's pretty robust. Even if you scrape it fairly hard when it's dry with white spirit, it shouldn't take much of the paint off below, as long as you do it very gradually. Obviously if you do it heavy-handed straight off the bat, you will lose quite a bit. So I have used a little bit of Streaking Grime in the past on this plane for Aeronautica, so I'll zoom in. And this was about 50-50 mix of the Streaking Grime and white spirit. And all I used was these little cotton buds here with a little bit of white spirit, a little bit of dampness, just to rub off the excess. And I'll show you how now. So I'm going to do the same trick again, possibly thin it out a little bit more on the underside of this plane. So I've got myself a little dish. I'm going to use a little bit of just generic white spirit, massive bottle, and it cost me £1. So it's nothing really in the grand scheme of things, because this is going to last me years. So, giving the old Streaking Grime a damn good shake. Using an older brush. It doesn't have to be terribly neat for what I want to use, so it's a pretty knackered old brush really. And I'm just going to apply a watery mix of this. I say watery, obviously it's white spirit, not actual water, to the underside of the wing. I don't want it really dark, I just want it so it's grimy. And don't worry, when this stuff dries, has a bit of a chalky, kind of more realistic dusty texture. Then it looks like it's going on. It looks like it's going on. And it's going to dry shiny. It doesn't. Changes completely. I'll just put it on there. You can always tease a little bit with some neat white spirit. Just there, so it's not quite so dark again. So I'm going to leave it darker in the recesses, so in the lower sections there, and that there is going to be a touch brighter, and darker again here. Really easy to use. I'm just slopping this stuff on, nothing at all behind it, no skill. Hell, I'm doing it. Of course there's no skill. And this is the underside of the plane in this particular case. So it just looks slightly grubby at the moment, nothing too fancy. But once it starts drying, you can start manipulating it with the cotton wool bud. So I'm going to try it now as it's drying, just to show you guys. So just taking the utmost layer off, and in one direction. So because it's a plane in this particular case, I'd imagine it's streaking towards the rear. But let's say you had a tank, you might want to streak it in a downward fashion, as gravity normally does the work for you when it comes to dirt and dust, and guess what? Grime. But because it's a plane, planes often travel in a forward motion, I thought I'd rub it off as such. So hardly any effort at all. And I want it that kind of level of grime. But it's up to you what you want to do. You can put more effort into it, less effort into it, totally up to you. So easy to manipulate, and you can tell it's drying already. So I left between the bombs a little bit dirtier. Yes, I couldn't get in there very well with a brush. sorry, with the cotton wool bud. I could get in there nicely with the brush, but I could put a bit of effort in and try to get in there, but not too fast. I like the grime in the recesses. So much detail with these Aeronautica planes as well, it's fantastic. It's really picking up quite a lot there. So you can see it's drying already, and that's looking pretty nice. So you could really lather it on straight out the bottle. So I'll show you what it looks like inside the bottle. Look how dark that looks. You could make it really dirty. So that was a fair bit of white spirit mixed in. That was in that section, and I would say possibly 50-50 in this section. So you can always add more, but it's difficult to remove too much in the recesses. Yes, you can remove it on the higher panels, and that's the whole idea of this product. It looks really good. As you can see, once it dries, it gives it more of a dusty feel. Definitely more realistic. Don't know how much of that is showing up at the side of the plane, but you can see there on the edges of the panels where the cotton wool bud couldn't get in. It leaves a nice lot of grime behind. Look at that. Pretty cool, huh? But like I said, you can go as hard with this stuff as you like. You can really just dunk it in a model. A lot of people use this product for like Death Guard and things like that for Warhammer 40,000. And that gives an example of what you could do with the streaks. So you don't have to just submerge and rub off the topmost. If you have a real flat panel, like on the side of a tank, and there's no rivets or anything around, you can just put it along the top of a crease of a tank, for example, and use a slightly moist brush with a little bit of white spirit to tease this stuff and drag it down. Like I said, in the direction of gravity, or if there's water washing, or in this case, if there's a plane, towards the rear of the wing, because obviously planes travel at such a speed, dirt and dust may get dislodged to the rear of the wing. So that's what I did. Not difficult in the slightest, but obviously that's just one way of doing it. I could have gone a lot more and really dunked those wings in, but I wanted to make it look grubby, not filthy. So yes, it's an orc plane, yes, it's a bit beaten, but like I was saying, a Death Guard model, for example, could be really grubby. Same game system, Warhammer 40,000, warrior of something like, I don't know, Krieg, Deathcore Krieg. They'll be in the trenches, they get really grubby. That would be perfect for that. A fast technique to really just rip through your whole army in no time at all. So I've done the same kind of thing with the back of this orc model. Just drenched it and wiped off the excess just to make it look a bit more grubby and grimy. I'm just taking off the topmost layer of paint. Like I said, put it on as much as you want or as little as you want. Next we have the rust streaks, which can be used in the exact same way. Even shows you a little demo there. There's a bit more of a contrast, so rather than a background kind of grubby look like that, the whole panel's kind of that colour. With this, you might want to localise the rust a bit more. You don't have to, but you might want to. Let's give my pot a little bit of a shake. And this time around, rather than drenching the entire model or wiping the model with a quite wide brush, I'm using, it's an older brush because I want to really use my my nicer brushes for better paint. But with enamel and white spirit, I do worry, especially with like a Winsor & Newton Series 7 or something like that, it may damage the bristles for long-term use. So what I'm going to use is the rust streaks. So just using the inside of the lid here, just getting a little bit on my brush and finding some rivets. And you can see I've done a couple, one there for example, just going to do another there. Once again, you could follow it down to gravity, start pulling it down, like so, and then just use a finger maybe, just wipe the top of the rivets off, just to show that the rust has gone around the rivet, and streaking down like so. You can see here on a bigger rivet what I mean. So on this Land Raider, you can see I've dragged it down here, off some rusted chips here. It's fantastic for something like that. You can just keep adding and adding to it. Little recessed pieces. Once again, you can add small details, or like these little chips here. Really go to town on some flat panels. Just make it look a bit more realistic. Just like so. Just remember, don't use your water pot, especially if it's nearby. You may be tempted to use it. Just use a little bit of white spirit and keep gently wiping that brush out, making sure all the paint is gone from your brush. So that's the two ways I basically use those paints. I think they're quite universal. You can really chuck it on a model, and once it starts drying, start pulling it off with that cotton wool bud, or when it's dry, if you pull it off then, it makes the panel have a more of a background kind of grime look, just like that, rather than a more specific area targeted like the rusty streaks, like so. Very simple video, but a very simple product. Really, really effective. Definitely rate it. It's a great tool to have in your arsenal, and like I said, something like this, rather than just a flat panel, you can start adding some detail, making it more realistic. Okay, thank you very much for watching, guys. I know it's a very short video this time around, but it's not a complicated product at all. So rather than doing two videos, one on rust streaks, one on streaking grime, I thought I'd do both. So great products from AK Interactive. They have an incredibly wide range. So this is AK-013, the old rust streaks, and the AK-012 is the streaking grime. There's so many out there. You have, this is for all vehicles apparently, but there's ones that are browner, or there's more of a verdigris colour, slightly more of a sepia tone. Loads of different tones out there, but I liked the generic streaking grime and the generic rust streaks. But of course, there are different colours out there. But it's a wonderful product set. Really do rate them. So easy to use. So pick up a couple bottles, have some fun. Don't take yourself too seriously. Just mess around. And remember, you can always wipe this stuff off if you're not too happy with it. But it's always best to try on a test piece first. Okay, stay safe everyone. Catch you in the next video.